Easy with Jen.
Plus, you will be covered with home insurance from JN General Insurance. And you also have the option to purchase coverage for the contents in your home with JNGI Online. It's simple, easy, and hassle-free.
With the changing times, we have had to change too. That's why we provided you with more convenient ways to send money to your loved ones in Jamaica. Sending funds with GN Money Online is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
You can also book appointments online to conduct transactions at select JN Money locations. Set your appointment, show up, and you're in and out in a few minutes. Sounds simple, right? That's because it is.
Have you ever considered investing? Did you know that Jamaica has one of the best performing stock markets in the world? Find out how JN Fund Managers can assist you in purchasing stocks and bonds in Jamaica today.
We're also proud to have launched the first Caribbean-owned bank in the United Kingdom, which is a digital bank offering loans and savings account opening online.
At Jamaica National, we are proud to serve you.
Our dedication to you will not waver.
Even though we're miles apart.
We should always remember that we are stronger together.
We are JN Strong.
We're JN Strong.
We are JN Strong.
We are JN Strong.
In Jamaica, we're very serious about two things: living joyfully and striving for excellence. There are many examples of Jamaican excellence. Our athletes and musicians are some of the finest in the world. And above all, Appleton Estate, crafted with joy.
Kev, that new boots look real good. Yeah, mommy buy it yesterday. Nice. Yeah, my youth, my auntie half cousin, sister, father, on my father's side send the money what they are from Canada and it land right in a mommy bank account.
Family may be complicated, but we get it. Receive a Western Union money transfer directly into your bank account with the direct-to-bank service. Register online at gkmsonline.com.
United by a dream. Oh, yeah.
The JN Group lifted the spirits of thousands during the Easter and Christmas holidays with 2 virtual concerts as we reaffirmed the strength and resilience of our people and shared a message of hope and reassurance to Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Holy night.
Please do not leave.
Ability, limited scope. But mama make me know some time and got dark road popping up.
Somebody loves you. I shall sing as long as I live and as long.
Called JN Circle Catch Up.
Edition of the JN Circle Right Together Life.
My father at the age of 7 used to tell me, when he leaves, I am the man of the house.
Be talking about not only festivities, T20 has taught me to be more flexible.
pivoting with the times, hosting the first hybrid annual general meeting in person and online.
I extended a special welcome to directors of the Jamaica National Group Limited.
I want to big up my friends, my family, and Merry Christmas to my very loving.
Even in the midst of change, some things remain constant, like maintaining the strong connection with home.
Together we're strong, and we're gonna get stronger. Together we're one. We are the future. What's good for me is good for you, and better for Jamaica too. We're one. We are Jamaica.
Welcome to the new and improved VM Express Online. Let's get you started with a new style of banking. If you are new to VM Express Online, please ensure that your account information is updated so that it matches what you enter when registering for VM Express Online. If you're unsure, get in touch with our Member Engagement Department at 876-754-8627 or log on to our online chat at vmbs.com to speak to a representative. Now, let's get you started. Step 1. Visit vmbs.com and select Register, and you will be directed to the VM Express Online login page. Step 2. Select Register for VM Express from the options indicated. Complete the self-registration form with the information currently on your account at VMBS. Once submitted, a verification code will be sent to your mobile number on record. Step 3. Enter the verification code when prompted. Step 4. Create your username and password. Now, once you've completed registration online, you may download the VM Express mobile app, available in Google Play Store and iOS App Store. Enjoy banking that gets you out of the line and back to your life with VM Express Online.
It's the taste like the beat of a drum that makes you move. From the Caribbean to the world, wrapped in the food. The taste that moves you. Sharing the moment, share it with everyone. The taste that moves you. Come make we share the joy and share the love. When the food sweet, we dance. When the vibe nice, we love. The taste that moves you.
Nothing moves your vibe, your mood, or your appetite like the taste of grace.
Jamaica is our home. Even when we live in other countries, we know that no one is like that.
There are so many things to love about Jamaica. The beautiful white sand beaches, the warm Jamaican breeze, the amazing waterfalls, the healing rivers, and our very rich culture.
Have you ever been to a party in Jamaica? If you know, you know.
We are proud Jamaicans, and Jamaica National is proud to be owned by Jamaicans and to serve Jamaicans across the world.
We believe that every Jamaican away from home deserves to own a piece of Jamrock. That's why we have been committed for over 146 years to helping you achieve your home ownership goals.
Why wouldn't you want to own a piece of Jamaica? I know I do. Your journey to home ownership is easy with Jan.
Plus, you will be covered with home insurance from JN General Insurance. And you also have the option to purchase coverage for the contents in your home with JNGI Online. It's simple, easy, and hassle-free.
With the changing times, we have had to change too. That's why we provided you with more convenient ways to send money to your loved ones in Jamaica. Sending funds with GN Money Online is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
You can also book appointments online to conduct transactions at select JN Money locations. Set your appointment, show up, and you're in and out in a few minutes. Sounds simple, right? That's because it is.
Have you ever considered investing? Did you know that Jamaica has one of the best performing stock markets in the world? Find out how JN Fund Managers can assist you in purchasing stocks and bonds in Jamaica today.
We're also proud to have launched the first Caribbean-owned bank in the United Kingdom, which is a digital bank offering loans and savings account opening online.
At Jamaica National, we are proud to serve you.
Our dedication to you will not waver.
Even though we're miles apart.
We should always remember that we are stronger together.
We are JN Strong.
We're JN Strong.
We are JN Strong.
We are JN Strong.
In Jamaica, we're very serious about two things: living joyfully and striving for excellence. There are many examples of Jamaican excellence. Our athletes and musicians are some of the finest in the world. And above all, Appleton Estate, crafted with joy.
Kev, that new boots look real good. Yeah, mommy buy it yesterday. Nice. Yeah, my youth. My auntie half cousin, sister, father. On my father's side, send the money over there from Canada, and it land right in a mommy bank account.
Family may be complicated, but we get it. Receive a Western Union money transfer directly into your bank account with the direct-to-bank service. Register online at gkmsonline.com.
Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the very exciting Diaspora Sustainability Symposium. I am Lloyd Wilkes and I have the distinct pleasure of being your moderator for this session. This session will be very ably supervised by those at the head table, and allow me to introduce and acknowledge the presence of Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Ambassador Sheila Sealy-Monteith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and Mr. Franz Hall, Under Secretary for the Diaspora Protocol and Consular Division in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Ladies and gentlemen, this is day 2, and it promises to be a very exciting, very engaging, and obviously memorable. It's a historic event, and I also must acknowledge the participant, which will take center stage later on, Ms. Kashane Denton, who is chairperson of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council. Welcome to all participants, and I am having to introduce our very, very best young minister in the person of the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan. Commencing proceedings today, we expect the minister to deliver a most engaging contribution to what has been and expected to continue to be an amazing ceremony. Minister Morgan started his career very early at Garvey Maceo, his education, went on to Clarendon College, went on to the University of the West Indies and the University of London. A very accomplished gentleman, a mentor, and we expect the minister to proceed right now. Help me to welcome Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth, and Information, Minister Morgan.
Thank you very much, moderator. We haven't seen each other in a long time. I think we should solve that problem very quickly. I'd like to acknowledge the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, also Minister of State, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, also Ambassador Monteith, Ambassador Hall, and all members of the diaspora, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a good morning and congratulations on staging this very important engagement. I know that it's very challenging, especially in the period of COVID, to engage in these relations. We are usually, and I know based on my cursory knowledge of the diplomatic community, you love to engage on a personal basis. But because of COVID, we've had to make significant changes in how we engage as government, as a people, as family and friends. But I'm very happy to be here. I think it's a wonderful occasion. And I think that based on my reports that I've gotten, you have been doing a very good job of this virtual diaspora symposium. I want to welcome everyone and thank you again for inviting me. To be able to be a part of this year's Youth Forum is something that I find very important and fills me with a sense of pride. Though it's virtual, I think it still displays the commitment diasporans and Jamaicans generally have for our homeland. Over the past 18 months in Jamaica and abroad, we have had to adapt to the devastating impact of COVID-19. However, as everyone knows, Jamaicans are the most resilient people in the world. We're very determined. So despite the challenges we face, we know that we must work and continue to work for our collective future as a people. Therefore, I want to thank you again, my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, for continuing your extensive works and encouraging Jamaicans around the world are connected and secure. I want to make special mention to the work of our consular corps, the work of our ambassador and other members of the diplomatic corps who have been engaging with persons within the diaspora, who have been getting us significant amounts of tablets. I know that work continues in that regard, and hundreds of tablets have been sent down through our consulates from across the United States and other places. I also know that private members of the diaspora have been working and securing tablets and other implements for students here who are disconnected from the education system because they do not have a device. This is very important to us here because education is the greatest equalizer in our society. With education, we can move people out of poverty, and our young people are depending on us as adults and as leaders to chart a path for them especially in this very challenging period, to show them how they can still succeed despite all the challenges. I cannot express gratitude to all these agents and foundations without giving a special thank you to the young people in the diaspora who themselves have been doing a lot of work in terms of helping us to navigate COVID through their donations, through coming down and having sessions with our young people, virtual sessions, live sessions, who continue to promote our culture, who continue to engage with the government to find a better way to deal with COVID. They have provided advice to young people here who are future scholars by talking to them about the opportunities overseas in terms of education. They have done a lot of community relief programs and so on. And I think these initiatives have built a growing network, or continues to build a growing network that also fertilizes affinity between the young people who are here and those who are abroad, who continue to work hard to maintain their connections with Jamaica. As a country, we have made significant strides, but yet we still have a long way to go to achieve our sustainable development goals as outlined in Vision 2030. So while we have done a lot of work, I must challenge you to continue to do more and assist us in rethinking how we approach our development as a society, especially as young people. The burden of the future rests on the shoulders of the young, and the Bible says, "Young man, I call on you because you are strong." And I'm calling on all young men and women today to invest in Jamaica, to help develop Jamaica, to bring your ideas forward, because indeed you are strong. Particularly our approach to issues regarding young people has bedeviled us over time as a nation. And I think the time is right now for young people to take center stage in bringing their voice to the table as to how we can develop as a society. Here at the Ministry of Education, we have done a lot of work in engaging young people. We just confirmed the Youth Advisory Council, which is a group of young people who are advisors to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and also will be assisting the wider government in terms of policy and the implementation of policy. So one of the interesting things about the Youth Advisory Council this year is that it's a 50-50 split. It's 50% women and 50% men, and it is co-chaired by a woman and a man. And I think it follows on the significant strides we have made, especially in the Parliament, where for the first time we've had a record number of women, more than ever before, in the Parliament. And I think that augurs well for our society's development, a society that is pushing toward equity and inclusiveness in terms of how we deal with the issues of men and women in the society. The reality is, however, that despite all the things that we have done as a government, and yes, we have done significant things over the last 6 years, the government alone cannot do it. So we need everyone, such as yourselves, who have a vested interest in the country, to assist us to thrive economically, socially, and culturally. As such, I charge you today during your discussions as youth to be practical and bold and innovative as we rethink how we approach our problems. You are the future, and yes, it's a cliche, but it's actually true. You are the future. You are our future, whether you're living here in Jamaica or elsewhere, breaking down barriers. You have a pivotal role in play in our advancement. I want us to look at the achievements that we have attained as a small country in the Caribbean. We now can boast both fastest persons in the world, a man and a woman, Usain Bolt and Shelley and Fraser. Our stock market has been lauded as one of the best in the world. Our music is acknowledged internationally as a cultural treasure, and our countrymen across the globe are gaining appointments at some of the most prestigious positions within government and the private sector. We're a strong nation, we're bold, free, tenacious, and hardworking. And interestingly, it's not just first generation Jamaicans who are excelling. I know if you read the papers and you watch the news, you will see descendants of ours who are now almost at the top of the US government, which is something that we should all be proud of. What we know for a fact is that Jamaicans are brilliant when they want to be brilliant. Jamaicans are innovative when they want to be innovative. And the plea I ask today is that we put our energies once again to help Jamaica recover better, faster, and stronger. Our position here at the Ministry of Education is to create an environment where young people can strive, where young people can shine. We're trying as best as possible to put in place the necessary reforms so that not only young people outside of the government system can strive, but also young people who are in state care. We're looking at reforming the Adoption Act, which will make adoptions easier and more transparent. We're also looking at reforming the Child Care and Protection Act to allow for better protection of our children. We are now coming forward with a 0 to 3 policy where no child under 3 years old should be in a children's home. We're implementing a zero tolerance policy where if somebody reports child abuse and we investigate and there is charges to be laid, then the police and the government and the legal system are going to work hard to ensure that those who are abusing children are held to account. These are just some of the things that we're doing as a government to protect our young people, as well as engaging young people in the policy formulation and implementation side of it. The theme for today's forum is sustainability and youth, our future, our vision. And I think it's relevant and timely and signifies the inclusive approach that this government has employed with our youth in the central partner in our discussions. We're indeed stronger together in making Jamaica a place of choice to live, work, and raise children. And for your conference today, I ask you to focus on how you can do one thing. Imagine if every day you decide to get up and do one thing to help Jamaica be better, grow stronger, grow faster. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I wish for you a wonderful conference. I wish for you all the success, and I wish for you to continue your work in helping Jamaica and collaborating and giving us advice. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful.
Thank you very much, Minister, for a very engaging, inspiring, and wonderful call to action, which allows us to segue directly into the very next session. We are being invited now to watch the One Device clip, and I will introduce our very next speaker, and I have a great pleasure in doing so. Our next chairperson for the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, Ms. Kashane Denton. Kashane is a Jamaican by birth and spent her formative years in Jamaica. She moved to Canada and pursued studies in project management after completing her first degree in finance and banking. Kashane is passionate about the land of her birth and has always been actively involved in programming, promoting culture, and giving back whenever possible. Growing up, she participated in JCDC activities and received various awards for the performing arts at the national level. She even placed top 3 in the Festival Queen competition for St. James. Kashane currently works in digitization and technology projects, as well as the homeless, adults, youths, and victims of abuse as a supervisor at the shelters. Kashane has previous experience in teaching, child rights, research, and credit administration. Her curiosity of the world sees her traveling whenever possible, and even had her venture to Japan as an English teacher. She currently sits on the board of the Jamaican Kennedy Association as Director of Communications. Outside of work, Kashane is passionate sports fan and a lover of books. I had the privilege of meeting Kashane and a great admirer and fan of hers. Please now become engaged in the One Device clips.
Hello, everyone. We all know by now that the outbreak of COVID-19 has dealt a severe blow to the local Jamaican economy, and many of our students and their families have been adversely affected. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought significant change to our education system, exposed risks, and unveiled opportunities that we must take advantage of. We are a resilient people, and this resilience is being demonstrated by the unifying approach towards securing the education of our children. All parents want the best for their children. And as Jamaica's Minister of Education, Youth and Information, I am committed to helping children reach their full potential. Last year, October, we launched the One Laptop or Tablet Per Child initiative with a goal of donating tablets and laptops to 100,000 students. The response was good, but we're still short in reaching our target. These students are not on the program for advancement through health and education path, but are considered to be vulnerable and in need of devices for digital learning. We've partnered with I encourage all our friends in the diaspora, wherever in the world you are, to continue to contribute to nation building through education by sending in donations for this noble initiative, by using the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange's payment portal. And you can find it at the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange website, www.jsscja.com. You can make payment by PayPal or credit card. You can click Donate on Connect a Child project or by direct bank transfer to the JSSC account at NCB Bank or by wire transfer. Banking details are on the screen below. Thank you so much.
Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Robert Morgan, Member of Parliament and the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Culture, Permanent Secretary Ambassador Sheila Monteith, and all other distinguished guests. Good morning. I am Kashane Denton, Chairperson of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council and Regional Leader here in Canada. I am thrilled to welcome you to the Youth Forum of the virtual Jamaica Diaspora Sustainability Symposium, presented under the theme Sustainability and Youth, or Future, or Vision. I have the pleasure of leading a group of passionate and driven young people, and today you will be hearing from a few of us on topics that are at the fore of our minds. The inclusion of youth in sustainability planning is a no-brainer. We will be the ones completing the vision and hopefully enjoying the spoils. Things are changing rapidly, and our perspectives are just as valuable and helps to drive the speed of change and exploration of inclusion and progressive approaches. The theme is an invitation to young people and youth leaders in the diaspora and Jamaica to embrace the opportunity to play a pivotal role in our country's development. Engage in meaningful discussions, be change agents for policies, and advocate for solutions that will create a space that we can thrive and build in. Today, we will have 3 sessions focused on the strategic pillars of peace, planet, and people. We will hear from our speakers on areas of concern, suggestions for improvement, and how we as young people can play our part. For those of you who are not yet part of our movement, I take this opportunity to invite you to join us by visiting our website, www.globaljayouth.com, and completing the registration form. Let us come together to create the world that we want to live in. Our first session will be moderated by Mrs. Mona Lee Belizaire, Regional Leader in the Northeast USA. Mona Lee is passionate about the advancement of youth and has worked on the local, national, and international levels in the areas of adolescent sexual and reproductive health, youth engagement, and positive youth development. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree, a Master of Public Health degree, and a Master of Social Work degree with a concentration in clinical social work. Mona Lee is a strong believer in public service and demonstrates that through her roles as commissioner and co-chair of the Emerging Leaders Program with the Montgomery County Commission for Women and as regional leader with the GJDYC in the Northeast USA. Welcome, Mona Lee.
Thank you, Kashane, and good morning, everyone. As Kashane mentioned, I am Mona Lee Belizaire. I am the Regional Youth Leader for the Northeast USA on the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council. It is a pleasure to be here this morning, and I certainly add my welcome to Kashane's. We're going to jump right into the presentations with the people session, where we will first hear from our very own chairperson, Kashane Denton. As mentioned earlier, Kashane is Jamaican by birth. She spent her formative years there. She moved to Canada, where she pursued studies in project management after completing her degree in finance. Kashane is passionate about the land of her birth and has always been actively involved in promoting culture and giving back whenever possible. She has been involved in many volunteer organizations over the years, and she is a project lead in digitization and technology and program supervisor in the social services sector. She's currently pursuing and completing her studies for her master's degree in law, innovation, and technology. She has previous experience in teaching, child rights research, and finance. She is passionate about the empowerment of youth through the use of technology and knowledge sharing. In addition to her work with the Youth Council, Kashane also sits on the board of directors of the Jamaican Canadian Association. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kashane Denton.
Thank you, Mona. I'm back again, guys. I feel like you guys know all my story now that I've been introduced so many times, so I'll jump right into it. My presentation this morning focuses on the people pillar, and my topic, and I struggled with confirming one topic, but I decided to call it Empowering Diaspora Youth as a Bridge to Sustainability. So under the 5 strategic pillars of the Sustainable Development Goals, the people pillar highlights work on improving socioeconomic welfare. Further to that, it speaks to education, health, community development, and youth empowerment. Now, in thinking about my presentation today, I decided to focus on youth empowerment. Why? Well, the obvious, right? This is a youth forum. But the less obvious is that youth empowerment will have a ripple effect in moving the needle forward on all the other areas covered. This is a diaspora symposium, and I want us to take a step back and define diaspora. And stay with me because it's going somewhere. Individuals who are migrants or descendants of migrants and whose identity and sense of belonging, either real or symbolic, shaped by their migration experience and background, are referred to collectively as the diaspora. Now, why did Kashane define it? I defined it because I wanted to isolate 2 parts of that specific definition to feed into my presentation. I wanted to highlight the fact that the definition included descendants of migrants with a real or symbolic sense of belonging. Diaspora youth who are not first generation tend to get looked at as not quite Jamaican because they haven't had a lived experience, or they're summertime Jamaicans because they only come for vacation, or if you're following social media, they call them flag in bio Jamaicans because they have the Jamaican flag in their bio. I want to point out that when I speak for diaspora youth today, I speak for both migrants and descendants of migrants, regardless of where they fall, 3rd, 4th, 5th generation. Their value is still just as significant as those born in Jamaica. And I guarantee you that they are ready and willing to engage and build on that symbolic sense of belonging, as I have seen in my experience through the GJDYC. So what is the value of the diaspora youth? Besides having family ties to Jamaica and often supporting them through remittances, Jamaicans in the diaspora can enjoy the rights of full citizenship, including opportunities to own land, vote, do business, and so much more. The increase in globalization is an opportunity for Jamaica, and the transnational nature of the diaspora speaks to how important the youth can be when it comes to connecting countries and communities, because they can call on multiple networks, relate to different identities, and share a sense of belonging to more than one community. There is a need to allow Jamaican youth in the diaspora to keep or build their identity while also providing them with opportunities to play an active role in Jamaica's development. I will break the values diaspora youth bring into three broad categories. I'll call them human and social capital, economic capital, and intellectual capital. Now let's look at human and social capital. This comes in the form of human resources that can be found in the youth through their skills and knowledge and the extended networks that they maintain. These skills are invaluable in the development of a variety of sectors, and as mentioned under the people pillar, health, education, and my personal favorite, technology. Young people have found novel ways to connect regardless of where they are located. And those transnational networks that they maintain are crucial to facilitating a more open flow of trade, investment, skills, and knowledge, and are based on relationships that they have made through families, friends, colleagues, or the associations that they're a part of. They have the perspective that will allow them to tailor unique innovations to fit the culture of Jamaica, while capitalizing on what is happening on the global stage and in their countries of residence. Economic capital. Now, economic capital is often limited to remittances and savings, but that is only a fraction of the total potential capital flows that the youth could bring. We should look at direct investments made by diaspora members in business activities. Nowadays, more young people are starting their own businesses and looking to expand outside of their areas of residence. Many of these businesses, as we've seen, are social enterprises, which could be beneficial to Jamaican society and environment in ways that we cannot list in this presentation. Members of diaspora communities are often in a prime position to take advantage of new economic opportunities, and they would be more willing to invest in Jamaica as a result of their personal ties. One such example is the increased interest in the Jamaican stock market. Intellectual capital. One of the major concerns highlighted with youth in Jamaica is brain drain, and I believe that diaspora youth participation in the country's development and vision, while not completely erasing it, allows the opportunity of reversing some of the negative effects of it. Diaspora youth have the experience of life outside of Jamaica, intermingling with what they have learned through culture of their home country, whether through lived experiences or passed on through parents, grandparents, or involvement in cultural exchanges. Now, the youth at home have the talent and abilities to build novel solutions to our country's socioeconomic issues. But if we aren't engaging them and providing opportunities for them to build and grow, then we will continue to lag behind in the areas of innovation. This is where the diaspora youth can be leveraged. The diaspora youth are willing to collaborate for knowledge sharing and skill building with the right support from both public and private sectors. Now, in business, there's this theory that we have called succession planning. I'm sure all of you know about it, which is a strategy for passing leadership roles. So if we're looking at sustainability, why would we not engage those who will continue to build on our vision and allow them to have a say in the world that they will inhabit? So now that I've said all of that, how do we do it? This is not an exhaustive list, but these are my suggestions. Get to know the diaspora youth. And I know it was mentioned yesterday as part of the presentations, especially from the partnership working group, and this is a shameless plug because I am a part of that working group, that compiling an inventory of diaspora skills and experience and engaging the diaspora is increasingly important. And I'm happy that we presented the iHub yesterday. That would be great. but also engage the diaspora youth in listening exercises to understand what the diaspora has to offer, how it's willing to offer it, and what we expect in return from our partners back home. Knowing and understanding the youth is central to effectively engaging with them and developing the appropriate outreach strategies. Another area is to build affinity for home. And this can be done through building their identity, accepting them, and encouraging them to claim their citizenship. Recognize that those of us who have left are not sellouts, and those who were not born at home are as Jamaican as the rest of us. Encourage them and create efficiency in applying and claiming for citizenship. Then we want to create spaces for interaction and dialogue. So in these listening exercises that I mentioned, whether regionally or nationally, the aim is to foster intergenerational dialogue by building tangible partnerships with the youth, right? The long-term project of building sustainable partnerships between home and the youth is much more likely to succeed if it has a strong foundation of good and open communication and mutual trust. Too often, people in the diaspora have believed that people back home see them as simply cash cows, and they feel they have so much more to offer. So build confidence in the youth that our work plays a part, because it's easy for us to bring ideas to sessions like this and have you agree with us. But if we don't see steps being taken to have them explored or implemented, it gets disheartening, and then we slowly give up and drift away. And of course, no sustainability. A friend of mine said one of my ideas was great, but sounded like a pipe dream. And that was very crushing, but I'm sure she's not alone in that. And so that is something that we need to fix. We need to establish tailored diaspora approaches. Capacity building models are not a one size fits all, because while we all share being Jamaican, our common experiences and offerings are influenced by where we are. So targeted programs to match the sub goals in our Grand Vision 2030 to the diaspora resources, whether human or financial, because we cannot leave that out, are needed. Because what Canada might be able to offer, the persons in China may not, or the UK or the USA and so on. But promote networking in order to empower the diaspora youth. So anchor the youth in various departments or initiatives by bringing them to the table to foster collaborative leadership. We're not saying leave it all to us, throw us in there, let us sink or swim. We're saying work with us, right? Build the relationship between the government, the organizations, and other regional structures, and then create pathways for the transfer of these resources. And then I mentioned that it's not only physical or economical, but also intellectual. The creation of appropriate conditions is essential to enabling transnational communities to become effective agents of development. And the degree to which we as diaspora youth can contribute is directly related to the ability of the members in our communities to push forward their skills and resources and serve as the architects for economic and social progress. With this in mind, attention must be paid to the contribution of new media and information technology in the repatriation of the intellectual capital from the diaspora. So a very simple example is setting up community resource centers, which have sessions scheduled around topics hosted by youth members in the diaspora. I am absolutely certain that if one of the members of the GJDYC heard that they could spend an hour or two online imparting knowledge in a particular area in which they're skilled, they would be extremely happy to do so. Coming out of this, though, is the need to ensure access to the supporting infrastructure, and this takes commitment. We've had a lot of talk over the years about the need for youth in decision-making, community building, and innovation in various spaces. But 2030 is only 8.5 years away. It's not that far. I remember where I was 8.5 years ago. So it's time for us to do less talking and more doing. And Jamaicans would say, put your money where your mouth is. The government and the diaspora have already started to partner through the implementation of the GJDYC to actualize some of these things. And we are grateful for the huge step which has enabled us to be here today sharing on this platform. However, in order for it to be sustainable, because sustainability is the theme, and for us to realize the full potential of this kind of partnership, we need other public and private agencies to step up and throw their full support behind the initiatives and fill those gaps. Because if this kind of engagement is not maintained, then the movement dies. My recommendations are fairly simple. So develop sound methodologies to map the diaspora youth and the skills and knowledge that they have. The brilliant idea by the Partnership Working Group is a form of that, the iHub, again, shameless plug. Implement facilitation of youth involvement across various arenas through engagement where they are. So through consulates or other missions in their countries, because this will increase efficiency in building those relationships and managing the networks that we bring. Build capacities of the existing institutions that deal with local and diaspora issues to help facilitate the transfer of resources, whether intellectual, monetary, or otherwise. Empower them as a middle person to bridge those gaps. And then to facilitate a return of talent through knowledge transfers, both in person and leveraging the technology available to us. Now, I joked yesterday that they were stealing my thunder for my presentation because they built on some of the ideas, but it is showing that this is something that can be a wonderful venture. Build volunteer programs, especially for youth in the diaspora, with the aim of enhancing social, cultural, and educational exchange. So very similar to the Birthright program mentioned by Grace Kennedy yesterday, but instead place youth into the communities, not just the corporate spaces and the major hubs, but in the actual grassroots spaces that need the push and would not readily have access to this kind of support and knowledge exchange. This allows for Jamaicans by descent to experience life in Jamaica by being immersed in the culture while also giving back and building skills that they can take away with them. It also allows them to use this experience to explore even more ways to give back. There may be other micro programs that we can implement in their country of residence for those who cannot be physically present to support the initiatives on the ground, to support through the missions and the diaspora groups. With all that I have said, it is obvious that a mindset shift is needed, followed by systemic changes that allow for the progress to continue long after we have left and regardless of who's running the ship. Because if it's anything that I know is that young people are up to the challenge if we engage and empower them. Thank you. Back to you, Mona.
Thank you so much, Kashane, for a very powerful presentation. I mean, you come straight out the gate and you dropped all kinds of gems, and we are appreciative of the wonderful presentation that you just made. Now is the time, if anyone has any questions, we ask that you drop it in the Q&A portal. I do see one question here from Vanessa Fennell. Most times the diaspora is seen as those living in the US, UK, and Canada. What is the plan for Jamaican youth living elsewhere, such as other Caribbean countries?
Thanks, Mona. Thanks, Vanessa. And that's a great question. I think, yes, we are used to pointing out the diaspora as these traditional areas of the US, UK, and Canada. And so even with the GJD YC right now, we're looking at expanding. So recently we've started going into East Asia, etc. And so the Caribbean is one of those spaces that we can definitely explore because a lot of Jamaican youth are in the Caribbean that I know of, and that would also be a valuable resource to have those experiences. So we'll have a plan in place for you guys very soon, and feel free to reach out to us. Any member of the council will be able to put you in contact with who you need to speak to get that started. And I take that as a volunteer to get it started wherever you are in the Caribbean. So thank you.
Thank you, Kasheen, for answering that question. I don't see any additional questions at this time, but please feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A portal. We will move right along to the next presentation, but before that happens—
Sorry, Mona, I just want to say, I see in the chat that someone says to add to Vanessa's question, the Jamaican youth in Europe. Again, I may not be able to fully understand where everyone is. Again, mapping the diaspora is one of the reasons one of the ways that we can find out where Jamaicans are located, but feel free to reach out to myself. I will put my information in the chat. Thank you. Go ahead, Mona, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Kasheen, for your response to those questions. As I said before, you did a wonderful job with presenting a lot of great points that we can definitely take back and move forward. You mentioned youth empowerment. You talked specifically about identity. That is something that's very important to our young people. We know specifically that a lot of our second and third generation young people don't feel like they're Jamaicans. And so it's important for us to ensure that we encourage them in their identity and that they move forward in establishing and claiming, as you so rightly said, Kasheen, their citizenship. We have so much to give. We have human and social capital. You know, Jamaicans, we have 50 million degrees and have 50 million jobs and doing all sorts of things in our community. So there are several skills that we can absolutely give back to our country. Mr. Brown said yesterday in the presentation of day one that we won't necessarily find young people giving back remittances, and that is very true. But we are absolutely willing to invest in Jamaica through direct investments, through economic capital, as you mentioned, Kasheen. And finally, we have the intellectual capital. We have varying experiences in the diaspora that we would love to give back. And as you mentioned, Kasheen, we don't just want to only give it back in the corporate space, but there are many of us, such as myself, who my degree is in social work and public health. So they're both serving industries or disciplines, I should say. We're going into the communities and giving of ourselves and giving of our time to young people who are in those spaces that would not necessarily get it. We want to do those things. And so I encourage everyone to definitely take what Kasheen has said and engage us where we are, engage us in those grassroots spaces where we know that we can provide the type of help that is needed for Jamaica, because we want to see Jamaica and our young people succeed. Thank you again, Kasheen. I will now move the presentation over to Laverne Rowe. Laverne, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mona. Good morning, everyone. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us with the GJDYC Youth Forum. So my name is Laverne Rowe. I am a lover of people and a lover of God. I am also a multi-hyphenate. Yes, they exist. I'm a founder and CEO of Luxuriance Beauty Inc., a Black woman-owned brand that sells beauty lifestyle products that increases Black women's quality of life. I'm also the founder of This Black Girl Travels, which combines my love for food, travel, and conversations. Today, I'm really excited to be the moderator for this particular segment on peace. And the reason being is because as a first-generation Jamaican Canadian, I know firsthand the first-generation experience included but not limited to dealing with anti-Blackness at an institutional level, navigating the corporate workspace and self-identity. And I joined the Global Jamaica Youth Diaspora Council's policy and advocacy arm to help bring change to Jamaica and the diaspora. I have a keen interest in marginalized groups with special emphasis on Black youth and Black women. I have a BA in Law and Society and Human Rights and Equity Studies from York University in Toronto, with over 8 years serving the Rexdale community in the capacity as a youth leader, a mentor, and an advocate. So as you can see, this is something that is very close to my heart. And I look forward to engaging in this session as it is right up my alley. And so I to welcome you. And I would also like to say that as you have questions, please use the Q&A tool so that we'll be able to engage together. So we'll actually be able to talk and have more of an interactive session. And so our next session will explore the ways in which the youth can support efforts to build just, safe, and secure communities through the implementation of strategies relating to conflict resolution, mentorship, and the adherence to the rule of law while ensuring respect for fundamental human rights. We will be hearing from Mr. Antonio Dawson. Antonio Dawson hails from the parish of Trelawney, Jamaica, and is now living in the United Kingdom with his beautiful wife, an amazing 3-year-old daughter, and precious baby twins that they welcomed in March of this year. Antonio is a devoted minister of religion. He is the founder of a weekly devotional program called Spiritual Breakfast. His audio messages are shared on his website and on social media. Antonio served as a police officer in the JCF for nearly 6 years before migrating to the UK. He is now a qualified psychological therapist working in London to help treat people suffering from depression and anxiety. He is knowledgeable of the struggles of life and has committed his life to improving the lives of others using psychological and spiritual tools. He is also an emotional support coach who is passionate about merging theology and psychology. Antonio is the founder of the Speak Black Man movement, which aims to educate and empower Black males about mental health difficulties and encourage them to speak about their emotions. Antonio is the author of his very first book, God's Seed for Success. This was released during the global pandemic in 2020, and it is a 31-day devotional to transform minds from drought to growth. Inspired by the life of Abraham and how he navigated through the struggles of life to become God's seed for success. It is equipped with psychological and spiritual tools that can be used to strategically develop the saved and those who are not yet saved. Antonio believes that we are all seeds created by God with a tree within us to produce the fruits that will make the world a better place, and lives by the philosophy to reach the lost at any cost. His favorite quote is from Martin Carter: "I do not dream to sleep, I dream to change the world." So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Antonio. We can't hear you, Antonio.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I want to start by saying I once heard that Jamaica isn't just a nationality. Being a Jamaican isn't just a nationality, it is an experience. You have to live it to understand it. Brand Jamaica as one of the richest culture in the world. For a country with less than 12,000 square meter in size, Jamaica has managed to impact the entire planet. From east to west, north to south, I'm sure you will hear someone talking about Jamaica, whether they're saying one love to the world or simply saying respect. A pleasant morning, everyone. Madam Chairperson, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Honorable Kamina Johnson Smith, Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, and other Minister of Parliament, distinguished guests, greetings to everyone today. I want to start today by saying I am not just happy that I'm a Jamaican. I am blessed to be a Jamaican. My wife and I, we have a shared passion of traveling. And in 2019, we had our final opportunity to travel before the pandemic. And we went to Morocco. When asked when we got there, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Jamaica. I was shocked by the response of these people. They were all ignited and they had this amazing peace on their face and excitement. And that brought me to a place of understanding just how rich the culture of my country is. As someone who has only migrated from Jamaica 5 years ago, I never understood and appreciated just how medicinal the culture of my country was to the world. As I speak, somewhere in the world, Brand Jamaica is bringing peace and tranquility to someone's life. Today, we're meeting here, and I know there's so many people from so many different parts of the world. We're meeting here today to put our heads together so that we can all collaborate and to understand how we can discuss policies and procedures that can make Jamaica a better place. Now, our Governor General, Sir Patrick Allen, constantly reminds us that there is nothing wrong with Jamaica that cannot be fixed by what is right with Jamaica. This year, the theme, Stronger Together for a Sustainable Future, is very relevant. But for the future that we want to see in Jamaica, we must tackle the issue of peace. It should not be a surprise today to anyone that Jamaica has a colossal problem as it relates to peace. For the next few minutes, I want to walk you through some possible ideas that can be established within our communities, our villages, our schools, and on a national level to help solve the issues that we have around crime and violence. I understand very well the nature of the problem we face in Jamaica. As discussed earlier, as mentioned earlier, I've served in the Jamaica Constabulary Force for almost 6 years. From walking the beats in Montego Bay in the hot sun, to driving patrol cars, to securing the Donald Sangster International Airport, to investigating fraud at the Area 1 Fraud Squad, to working with the major organized crime to arrest corrupt police officers, and to helping the lotto scamming task force to raise awareness about lotto scamming. I've done it all. And I know the enormous danger that we face as a country as it relates to crime. In 2010, when I joined the Jamaica Constabulary Force, my intention was to make a great mark when I took the oath of office. But quickly I recognized that there was a giant that our country faced, the giant of crime. The World Health Organization defined peace as not merely the absence of war, but a condition of living where everyone can enjoy tolerance and respect. Having a peaceful society, my friends, would mean that one would be able to walk the beautiful streets of Jamaica without fear of being gunned down by notorious gunmen who do not understand the value of Jamaica's most precious resource, its people. Having a peaceful society would mean that our women could walk the streets of Jamaica without being killed and disposed like animals. By now you might be saying, where am I going with this discussion? And how are we going to fix this problem that we all are aware of? As a trained psychological therapist, I believe that change starts in the mind. If we're ever going to change the current culture of lawlessness in Jamaica, it is imperative that we re-socialize our people of what peace should look like. We cannot expect police to solely solve the problem of crime and violence in Jamaica because the duty of the police officer is often more reactive than proactive. Police are not privileged to the mental states of those who are contemplating crime. So today I want to look at 6 points that can help to attack the problem of crime and restore peace. My first point: sustainable national program on values and attitude. It was Kirkland 1998 who postulated that values is the belief that influence the way people and groups behave. They are the soul of the organization. Soul of the organization. If Jamaica is ever going to be effective, we have to get the soul right. Hence why it is very important that we have a planned, effective system that promotes values and attitude. Importantly, if the initiative is to be successful as a country, it must start from the top. In doing so, governments, oppositional and private sectors must back the adequate funding or must put in place the adequate funding. Furthermore, these values should be tied to the inspections of schools, hospitals, the hospitality industry. Government should ensure that these values are regulated in every system of our country. I believe that with the legislations in place, proper funding, and detailed sustained program of education of the population about Jamaica's values, then we can start to see remarkable change in our society. This will make Vision 2030 a reality and not just a mere dream. Another important tenet to promoting peace in our society is by examining parenting. As a nation, our fathers and mothers need to be taught how to raise their children with compassion and love. The aggression shown to children through harsh words and being beaten program their minds from a tender stage to see the world as a hopeless place. Psychology teaches that nature and nurture are essential to shape the mindset of a person's personality. From a tender stage, children should be taught the importance of self-compassion and compassion to mankind. Now, I myself, I learned to read at 13. And I was ridiculed by many persons in my community. I was pushed aside and it felt horrible. I could have easily chosen to turn to crime and violence. But my parents, who were poor farmers from Chilani, Jamaica, they did not allow me to give in to my failure. They nurtured me through love and gave me an opportunity to dream bigger than my failures. It is my belief today, everyone, that poverty, even though it is an enormous problem in our country, it is not the main problem. Mindset is. Frank McCourt once said, "You might be poor, your shoes might be broken, but your mind is a palace." We need to allow our young people to recognize that their minds is a palace. Their mind control all the wealth that they will ever need. It is imperative that government encourages better community spirit by implementing legislations that allow local governments and family agencies to partner and develop parental support groups in our community, where parents can meet and share ideas and learn the values that represent the Jamaica we want to see. Peace can only be sustained when we build a stable system in which our people can thrive. Thirdly, it is very important that government implement a national program that socialize people how to express difficult thoughts and emotions in a safe way. As was mentioned earlier, I created a movement called the Speak Black Man Movement. And the reason I created this movement was because I recognized that many of us as Black men are not socialized how to express our feeling. Can you hear me? Sorry, I've seen some connection issues coming up.
You're good.
So look, I'll continue. So I created this movement because I recognize that within our culture, not only in Jamaica, but across the world, many of us as Black people are not socialized to express how we truly feel. Now, if we should go into the streets of Jamaica right now, and you ask someone, how are you feeling today? You might hear, well, I feel good, I feel bad, or I just feel weird. We are not trained to be emotionally vulnerable. We are not trained to understand the different affects that we're experiencing. So at any time we don't speak about feeling sad, upset, angry, agitated, overwhelmed, we oftentimes don't understand what is truly happening within our minds. And so because we don't really know how to convey or express ourselves, it is likely that we will engage in a way that our behavior will show aggression or might engage in something that will lead to some kind of fight or quarrel. I believe to alleviate this problem, government should consider implementing a zone of regulation program. In our schools, they have a system like that in the UK. Through this initiative, you get to allow the children to understand emotion using what is called a red, green, or yellow zone. So by this, they can say how they're feeling at any given time, rather than just expressing themselves through anger. This should be implemented from in the primary stage or even earlier, so children have great connection to their feeling. Government should also invest more in their budget for mental health. And I'm very passionate about this point. Jamaicans need an affordable or free access to mental health service. When people are stressed, anxious, or depressed, they're more likely to engage in crime and violence because they're seeing themselves and the world and people through a mental filter that is distorted. So it is more likely that they might engage in activities that might cause crime. Government should consider investing more in psychology. It's prime time. We develop a national program like the Improving Access to Psychological Therapies program in the UK, where government partner with university to train psychology students in treating people with mild to moderate depression and anxiety. Have we ever stopped to wonder why so much crime is in our country? Maybe some of these people are experiencing mental health difficulties, but there's no proper system to channel or facilitate these changes or to understand what is happening in the mind. So the culture of crime becomes a psychological problem rather than just a system of poverty or a system that because of our laws. We have to look at the psychology. My next point, media. The media in the 24th century plays a very important role in facilitating any change. And Jim Morrison put it like this. He said, whoever controls the media controls the mind. The media has significant impact as it relates to public beliefs, attitudes, and promoting social change. I am of the view that the media could play a greater role in fulfilling their corporate social responsibility. These are the following ways I think they can do more. One, promoting the message of rule of law and respect. The public need to be more educated about the laws of the country. Recently, I spoke to a friend and he said, I've never learned about the laws in Jamaica. I don't know the law, which means that the media could also help to promote the laws of the country and what it means to violate the law. The media can also promote more around values and morals. Classical conditioning, a psychological principle, teaches that anything that we become exposed to for too long, it becomes the new habit of the mind. Hello? Hello?
We're hearing you.
My connection keeps tripping, sorry about that. My next point is promoting the message of rule of law and respect. The public need to be more educated on how laws work and how the system is. And we need to through the media, we need to hold the government accountable to ensuring that laws and procedures are effectively taken care of in our country. The media has a great role to influence how laws are made. Now, I can recall working in Jamaica, working at the major organized crime. At the time, letter scamming was a major problem. And through the media, the constant profiling of how colossal the problem was, they were able to push to the extent that government created the Law Reform Fraudulent Transaction Special Provisions Act. We need more of these initiatives where constant awareness of what is not working is put at the forefront of the minds of our people and government so that legislations can change. There are many outdated legislation that needs to change, but we need attention to be given to them. Additionally, every citizen locally and overseas has a duty to play in maintaining peace using social media apps such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We should desist from sharing and liking content that promote violence, abuse, or injustice. I have noticed on several occasions that when there's a crime in the country, it quickly spread to other sections of the country, such as domestic abuse. This might be because of the constant sharing of domestic abuse and so forth, that it becomes the norm, or it's normalized within the society, and people think it's okay to engage in these actions. We should also seek to ensure that we're investing more in technology. I believe that the society that we live in today need to move with the time. I can see that the government has been implementing things like Jamaica Eye, which is very, very effective and very helpful, but more can be done. Government should consider partnering with business to implement security cameras in small and large businesses for citizens to feel safe. These security cameras should also be connected to Jamaica Eye so that the data can be circulated through one system. Transportation system should also be connected to Jamaica Eye, such as the JUCT buses or public transport, public taxi operators who are signed up with different organizations. Additionally, the mental health of police officers should also be considered, because I believe that every single police station should have a police officer who is trained in mental health to lead, because sometimes officers need a space in which they can navigate through their emotional or psychological problems. And so we'll have less police officers engaging in shootings or behaviors that are considered unlawful, that also impact on the level of peace within our country. My final point. The Ministry of National Security in 2020, in a statement in the House of Parliament, postulated that there is approximately 389 criminal gangs in Jamaica. At the time, it was said that 250 of these gangs were still very active in our country. This is a major threat to the peace of Jamaica. To tackle this Goliath, we need to encourage more community peace initiatives. Government should consider investing more in neighborhood watch, partnering with churches, local clubs, and societies to encourage people to speak out using secure space and reporting criminalities. Without this collaboration, we'll not see the change within our society. Additionally, many studies have shown that criminals who are released from prison reoffend within 1 year of being released. It should be of great importance for government to ensure that the rehabilitation system does not become a system that fosters crime, rather than supporting those who have gone behind bars to ensure that they're being productive when they come back into society. More partnership is needed between Jamaicans at home and overseas to help to support the system within rehabilitation. We can pull resources from those overseas, and we can also use resources within our country, such as businesses can partner with government so that there are jobs available for persons coming from prison. So we don't have persons being released and going back to what they are accustomed to, crime. Let's pause for a moment and join me in a journey as we imagine a Jamaica where children from a tender stage are taught values, the rules of laws, tolerance. A Jamaican in which our boys and girls can effectively communicate the things that affect them without acting out. A Jamaica in which every citizen is involved in advancing the welfare of the country. A Jamaica in which the media is used to change laws and restore values. A Jamaica in which the police and the community are living in unity. I'm sure you're enjoying that journey. To make this imagination a reality, we must now desist from asking why Jamaica is the way it is and start to ask what can we do to make it a better place by implementing strategies on how we can advance our nation under God. It is up to us, every one of us here today, to play our part in giving back to our country, whether our time or resources. The time is now to make Jamaica great. Jamaica is a global brand, but it's our responsibility to make Jamaica a nation that is leading by example. What are we waiting on? Let's go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for that presentation. I want to invite anyone who may have any comments or questions to drop them in the chat in the Q&A section so we could be able to follow up with Antonio while we have him here. I was taking notes because your presentation was really powerful. I truly believe most of the things that you said, if we implement them by 2030, Jamaica will be unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. There were some questions that came through, and okay, so the first question here is, what is your involvement in London as a member of the faith community?
I'm a minister of religion, so I serve in my local church, just regular ministry things. I am also a part of the Global JA, and I do presentations using my spiritual insight and psychological tools. As was said, I'm very passionate about merging theology and psychology, so I'm always doing that.
Thank you. Another question is, well, maybe this may not be for you, but maybe you can answer it in a general term. From a Stafford Grant, are there any plans to address mental health and disability with youth development in Jamaica? Maybe you can't answer it, but do you see how that can be implemented in Jamaican society?
This is something I'm extremely passionate about, and if government don't hear anything today, I want them to hear this. We have the resource, we have the human capital, I have many of my friends who've graduated with psychology degree, and if government just have a program of just putting resource into utilizing mild to moderate levels of training in depression and anxiety, then what we'll find is that we can have our people who are overwhelmed or stressed learning how to navigate through depression and anxiety. Hence, we will have less crime, I believe, less violence, because people know how to regulate their emotions and know how to manage difficulty, especially when it comes to domestic violence. You know, we can do so much with the resources we already have in our country. I think partnership with government and university will really help to make a great change in this area.
Right. I agree. The next question that I have here is, I would like to ask if there are any restorative practices being done in school in Jamaica. Again, maybe it's something you can't necessarily answer, but do you see where the restorative practices can be done in Jamaica? What are your suggestions towards that?
Well, I believe I'm doing my desire is to do my part, because I think that whenever you learn or you acquire knowledge or wisdom, it should go back to building your country or building your people. And what I'm doing by forming the Speak Black Man movement, which I've done, the idea is to bring it back into Jamaica, is to go back into schools, is to go back into communities and really try to find people who want to help facilitate that change of learning how to manage emotions and manage difficulties through psychological interventions.
Right. I have one more question here, and then there are two people who have raised their hands, so we're going to get them to ask their question. So one question here is, what are practical small-scale things or behaviors that individuals can do in order to contribute to peace and conflict resolution?
I think I kind of touch on that in my presentation. Simple things like not engaging in sharing content or liking content on social media that promote any form of violence, and really also becoming, every one of us should see yourself as a police officer. We are citizens, and once you're a citizen, you are an officer for your country, and you should also report crime and violence if you know it. We must get over the culture of thinking that we have to keep information because of fear, because fear is what will keep our country in this cycle of crime. Until people start to have the bravery to start speaking out in a safe way, then we will not see change, because in any mental problem, fear is what keeps it going. And I believe crime has become a mental problem within our society.
Right. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to allow Earl Taylor to speak. So I'm going to ask them to unmute and go ahead with your question.
They have to put the question in the Q&A. I don't think they can unmute because it's a webinar.
Okay, because it says allow to talk. Okay. Okay. What I have Earl Taylor and Chris Thompson. Oh, talking permitted. Can you speak, Earl? Earl, are you with us? Okay. Let's go ahead with Chris Thompson then. No, technical difficulty. That's okay. If either of you can go ahead and write your question in the chat, we would love to discuss it at a later time. But I would like to go ahead and wrap this up, just because we have spent so much time here with Antonio and it was very valuable. So I'd like to say again, thank you so much, Antonio, for your time and for sharing with everything. And so we're going to actually be going right over to our next session with Asha. Asha is our moderator, and Asha Richards has been a member of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, the Northeast USA, since August 2020, and currently serves on the Policy and Advocacy Committee. She currently works with the African Peacekeeping Rapid Response Partnership, a U.S. Department of State initiative to support African partner nations in obtaining the capacity to independently rapidly deploy United Nations Level 2 hospitals in times of global crisis. Asha is also a recent graduate from Virginia Wesleyan University, receiving her bachelor's in international studies and political science, as well as a certificate in international organizations and diplomacy. She will be pursuing her master's in developmental practice this fall at Columbia University School for International and Public Affairs. So please go ahead and welcome Asha. It's all over to you.
Thank you, Laverne. And as aforementioned, my name is Asha Richards, and thank you everyone for choosing to join the Jamaica Diaspora Youth Forum this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're joining from. Just a friendly reminder that if you have any questions about this session, please type them in the Q&A section. Our next Our next session focuses on our planet and ways we can support efforts to address issues relating to the environment and sustainable development. This would include climate change, agriculture, and sustainable communities and cities. As a proud first-generation Jamaican American dedicated to the development and advancement of Jamaica, the planet is a very important topic to me. In addition to our people, peace, and other areas of development, it is important to discuss the issues facing our planet in order to leave a clean and green Jamaica for us, the youth, and future generations of Jamaicans to prosper and thrive. For this session on Planet, we will be hearing from Mr. Nicholas Key. Nicholas Key is a tech philanthropist and the co-founder of ASU, a startup venture studio aimed at creating frictionless products and services for the virtual economy. He also is the co-founder of Key Farms, an ocean farm focused on climate change action through sustainable blue and green economic activity. Prior to this, he was the co-founder and executive director of Next Gen Creators, a nonprofit organization aimed at promoting software development and tech entrepreneurship for youths in the Caribbean. Nicholas is also the Jamaica Youth Ambassador to the Commonwealth, a UNICEF U-Report Youth Council member, and a STEM ambassador for the Scientific Research Council, and spends his time consulting with various government agencies and private organizations throughout the diaspora to help implement technological solutions into their societies. Welcome, Nicholas.
Hi, morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you good.
Great. Morning all. Special greetings to Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, Permanent Secretary Ambassador Sheila Monteith, all protocols observed. So before I actually dive into the crux of the matter, I'm going to be presenting 3 figures that we should all be paying attention to during my presentation. And of course, I'll highlight them throughout the way so that we're all on track. The first figure is 1.5. The second is 2016, and the third is 0.001. 1.5 represents the global estimated atmospheric temperature that we're expected to reach by 2040. This is 1.5 degrees Celsius, of course. Right now, our global temperatures reflect about 1.16 degrees Celsius. However, with our current collective activities, we're certainly on track to getting there. When this happens, the Earth becomes very scary. It means that we'll have a more inhospitable place for us to live, to grow, to learn, and to work. It means that society will see the mass migration of people living from small island developing states like Jamaica into more the global north and those with bigger land masses. And so I believe the only way that for us to really curtail this problem is to start living sustainably. Sustainability is essentially the capacity to endure in a relatively ongoing way across various domains of life. This not only starts from an environmental perspective. It also dives deeper into how we work, how we view productivity, how we spend our time leisurely, how we interact and intermingle with others, and how we more or less look at long-term view initiatives that will get us to technological advancement. So the next figure that I wanted to highlight, 2016. 2016 was the worst hurricane season experienced in Jamaica. And I know before we get down into the details of it, worse is of course relative. I'm sure we all remember Gilbert and Ivan. Well, I don't remember Gilbert, but I certainly remember Ivan. But 2016 is particularly seen as probably the worst relative to today's standards, because it is more or less an inflection point at which the Caribbean, more specifically Jamaica, had gone through some of the worst conditions that would have spelled our future in the next coming years. So for context, we had produced about 15 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes, meaning the ones above a certain threshold. And so the third figure that I had mentioned is 0.001. 0.001 more accurately represents the percentage at which Jamaica really contributes to the global footprint. It's around that figure. Of course, it's an estimate and it fluctuates throughout every month and of course every year. But this more or less represents the percentage at which we actually, our activities generally, have contributed to the global environmental shift that we're experiencing today. Now, why is this important? It means that even though we're experiencing all of these extreme conditions, especially for the region, we aren't necessarily in control of them, or at least are able to make critical change towards making the giant step in stemming the climate change action issue. It of course means that we will have to rely on superpowers or the global north and by extension bigger land masses in the global south to help make all of these changes possible. Some of the things that we have done as small island developing states, in particular Jamaica, is really advocate for change and implement regulations with respect to how superpowers like the US, and more specifically North America as a region, Europe and Asia, treat the environment, and treat the environment with respect to how it is supposed to be treated, so that we don't face the blunt of its radical effects. So before I continue, I think there are some other things that we should definitely note. I had mentioned the global temperature stat, which is very scary. To put things into perspective, as we head to 2030 as our Vision 2030 goal, if radical steps aren't taken, we essentially will be unable to make changes, or rather reverse some of the actions in order to help make positive changes for the future. By 2030, if things haven't changed, it would mean that we would have to start looking at already shifting and moving the Norman Manley International Airport from Kingston into somewhere more inland. It means that our entire coastal borders across the country would have been eroded or mass eroded. And this means that we would be in danger, significant danger, even more danger than 2016, and vulnerable to different natural disasters such as hurricanes and storms in the years to come. It will mean that we as citizens of Jamaica will have to start looking into either migrating to other countries in a mass migration, similar to, I guess, the Windward Rush, if we were to make some kind of analogy, or we would have to start moving more inward in towards Jamaica, the landmass itself. It means that Kingston, for instance, would be on track to be definitely underwater at some point in time. And it would also mean that areas like Clarendon would have severe erosion, which would mean that majority of communities would be displaced. And this is a cause for concern. And so as we start to think about 2030 in this hairy-fairy, more sustainable, or rather our goal towards getting things done before time runs out, we need to start thinking of 2030 as one milestone that we need to cross, and then using that as a pinpoint to head to 2040 to make things significantly better into each decade thereafter. And this essentially looks like, well, for us, of course, in Jamaica, we started on regulations with respect to, trying to dictate how other mass countries treat the environment so that we are safe. A few other things that we need to start looking at is things related to what we can actively do in Jamaica and by extension the Caribbean to make this a hospitable place. And I mentioned the Caribbean because certainly in a small region like ours, there's nothing that we can do. We have to work together in order to make things achievable. We definitely can't work alone as one country, even as one country related to the Jamaican diaspora. We need to start thinking about this issue and bringing different stakeholders from the entire Caribbean region and the Caribbean region diaspora. So again, we need to start looking at active initiatives so that we can stand a better chance at surviving this crisis, which I believe is one of the most important crises that we should pay attention to. So we need to start looking at, of course, trying to push legislation to relocate the Norman Manley International Airport. We need to start looking at providing housing in strategic areas across Jamaica so that people can be prepared for the mass migration. We need to start looking at better protecting our beaches and holding hoteliers and by extension the tourism industry more accountable for the atrocities that we experience locally throughout Jamaica. This looks practically like protecting our mangroves, which are the most important asset to Jamaica in this climate change fight. Mangroves, for context, contribute to the most carbon dioxide atmospheric pull out of all our local organisms throughout Jamaica and even globally. We also have coral reefs, we have seagrass. Jamaica is filled with an abundance of organisms that will be able to enable us to draw down some of that carbon dioxide that we desperately need to pull down in order to lower the global temperatures. And so along the lines of holding hoteliers accountable, we need to start promoting the growth of maricultural ecosystems so that we can thrive. So this means, protecting against overfishing. It means looking at sustainable ways in which we can dispose of our own sewage. It also means looking at ways in which we can possibly incentivize the fisherfolk community to look at other avenues of generating income in alignment with our climate change action goals. Practically, that looks like seaweed farming, for instance, which I happen to be a part of. It also looks like implementing different technologies that we can essentially use to create artificial barriers and also promote the general artificial creation of these ecosystems for different local organisms to thrive. It also means looking at regulations so that we don't essentially destroy our local habitats, so mountains, for instance, and different land masses that actually hold in carbon dioxide and pull the carbon out of the atmosphere. And so these are just some of the ways in which we can take action at a macro level. At the micro scale, of course, this all seems daunting. And so practically as youth, for instance, the simplest thing that we can easily do is probably plant a tree. It doesn't seem like much, but it is a small step. Plant the tree, maintain the plant to enable it to grow to the landmass in which it's able to just draw down as much carbon from the atmosphere as possible. Volunteer at a sanctuary. Sanctuaries are great places for us to take action. They often have a lot of initiatives related to either growing mangroves or creating habitats for the development and safeguarding of coral reefs. There are always need of help. More actionable items that we can take part in is, of course, to raise funds specifically geared towards climate action in Jamaica and in the Caribbean, if you so choose to do so. But these funds would more or less be actionable for the same sanctuaries that I had mentioned prior. We need to start developing an economic framework so that we can be protected in Jamaica to survive the great collapse or environmental collapse in the near future. And I think that's it from me.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your insights on what we can do to develop more sustainably and not making it as daunting as it may seem. Right now, I'd like to move to questions. Right now, we have a question from Miss Janice Watson from Houston, Texas. There are actually a few questions here. She's asking, how do we get the items that you mentioned into action? What are our next steps? If the government of Jamaica is not willing or able to, where do we go from here? And what can we do to keep pushing forward?
Oh, I'm seeing the amendment of our question. Why do we keep meeting and talking? So I'll take them one by one. How do we get these into action? So I had mentioned earlier the overwhelming responses that need to be taken on a macro level. Those are really tailored towards different international bodies and, of course, governments that we as citizens need to lobby for change for. So this looks like being more resourceful about learning about the environment, and also doing simple things like advocating for it via social media or joining existing environmental justice groups so that we can enact a whole lot of lobby changes to protect us. That's one. So that's on a macro level, of course. On a micro level, I had mentioned some of them, but specifically as it relates to Jamaica, in the context of climate change action, we can only do two things with respect to carbon removal. Carbon removal being the most critical pathway for us. Within carbon removal, you have the chemical avenues and you have the biological avenues. The chemical/physical avenues, we are unable to really partake in that, mainly because we don't have the infrastructure to support those kinds of activities. But biologically, everything is here. We have the ocean. It is our greatest asset and the most important thing that we need to take care of as we think about climate change action. It is the life and breath of our entire being. Without the oceans, we will die. And if we don't take care of them, our demise is imminent. And so going back to biological actions, this looks like practically starting an ocean farm. It might seem daunting, but it's actually pretty simple. If you're unable to start your own ocean farm, I would look towards volunteering at one or even working for one. Or at the other end of the stick, if you already have the resources, invest in ocean farms in Jamaica. It is important. It is one of the greatest assets and the greatest tools that we have at our disposal right now. Our ocean farms facilitate the drawdown of carbon from the atmosphere, from seaweed, oysters, and other shellfish. And it also promotes the movement of our usual activities with respect to food, for instance, to shifting into something more sustainable. So for context, seaweed can be made into byproducts within the food industry. So fertilizer for plants, for instance, feed for animals. Of course, we should start feeding all our goats and pigs and cows seaweed. I don't know why we keep feeding them grass, for instance, or even corn. It's not necessarily healthy for them in the grand scheme of things. Seaweed can also contribute to the development of biofuels so that we can stop pulling the nasty, quote unquote, oils out of the ground, from the dinosaurs. And seaweed can also be used in the pharmaceutical and beauty industry as well. There are about 12 different categories. I just named those 5 to just give some more broad context. What are our next steps? I believe that, of course, this all depends on where you are in life. Typically, if you have the capacity, you should be able to. If you have the capacity and the means to, you should definitely, as I mentioned before.
Nicholas, are you still with us? It appears we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll try and give him a minute to see if he can reconnect.
There we go. I think I'm back.
Yes, you are.
All right. I'm going to pick up where I think I essentially got cut off. So as I was mentioning before, our next steps, it really all depends on where you are in life and with respect to what kind of resources you actually have at your disposal. So to start off, the simplest thing that you can do, especially if you're from the diaspora, is invest in initiatives that are moving after climate change action. It also means that you should take the initiative to learn more about the environment and how it will impact Jamaica and by extension the Caribbean, so that you can start to lobby, at least in a decentralized way on social media, about the changes that need to be made for Jamaica to be hospitable. And if the government of Jamaica is not willing or able to, where do we go from here? Again, grassroots is always a key, especially in a small island developing state like Jamaica. Grassroots is for sure the most the best critical path for us to make significant change. From grassroots initiatives, they can of course grow. And those grassroots initiatives, especially if you already have the connections, you as a diaspora member should be making those network effects in your own countries, in the countries that you now live in, to different organizations so that they can partner with local grassroots entities in Jamaica to provide technical support or systematic funding for us to do more systemic things in the climate change action fight. Yes, I think, and the last one, why do we keep meeting and talking? I promise you the meeting and talking is still important because there are a whole lot of people that aren't aware of the severe issues that are facing not just Jamaica, but the entire Caribbean and small island developing states. And of course, the globe. So we still need to keep talking, we still need to keep meeting, but you're absolutely right, we also need to keep doing. And so while there are those who are unable to take physical active action, the most that others can do is engage with different environmental justice groups so that they can be sensitized about the various issues, and of course make those different connections to actual organizations on the ground that are doing the work. I think I answered that question, Janice. Thank you for that.
Awesome. So I see that we have a few more questions. We have a question from Garalina. How does one reach out to be a part of an ocean farm?
Right. I guess you can reach out to me. I happen to be a part of one. For context, I currently run Key Farms. It's a regenerative ocean farm that aims to take part in climate change action by looking at sustainable ways in which we can pull as much carbon from the atmosphere to reduce the global temperatures. Our model is, of course, to grow seaweed, oysters, and other organisms that can help us in this charge. And of course, open source, in the near future, open source our model so that other fishermen throughout Jamaica can follow this same model and start their own seaweed farms so that we can contribute to the global pull. And of course, create a blue/green economy that is profitable so that fisher folk community can feed their families and cover their expenses and contribute in a meaningful way to our entire economy. So you can reach out to me. You can head to keyfarms.com. I think the website might be down, sadly. Or you can probably email info@keyfarms.com, or you can probably reach out to me via the diaspora group. I'm in the WhatsApp group and I'm a part of the exec. Or you can email me personally at keynicolask@gmail.com. Last name, then first name, k@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have is if you have reached out to the minister in charge of the environment.
Yes, we're currently engaging with them, with Minister Charles and Minister Floyd Green as well, vicariously of our networks. And yes, you're right. You can definitely donate to the Alligator Head Foundation in Jamaica. That's essentially where we're doing our pilot project for our Ocean Farm initiative. And it is the point at which we will essentially disseminate and train other fisher folk on how to conduct such activities. But yes, we've all reached out to each other vicariously of our networks, and so we're generally aware of what is going on with respect to action. Oh, you're muted, Asha.
I'm sorry, thank you. I've been made aware of two questions in the chat. The first one is, how can youth help to reduce plastic and other material waste that consistently devastates Jamaica's ecological system?
Okay, so that is a more contentious issue. I know I'm going to get a bit of pushback, mainly because what we've been doing in the climate change space, or at least what mass companies, big companies have been doing, is putting a lot of distraction points so that we are not really paying attention towards the real true effects of how we can take action. With respect to plastics, sadly, only 1% of our global plastics are actually recycled. So technically, I don't really want to be morbid here, but technically there's absolutely almost nothing we can do to stop this plastic garbage problem. With respect to Jamaica in particular, we don't have the facilities to process the plastics. And remember, it's just 1%. Even if we were to get all the supply chain nodes in order and get logistics streamlined, we can realistically only recycle 1% of our entire plastics, 1% or even less. The rest of the plastics are more or less segregated into different categories that make them not usable beyond the first time use. And this mainly is because the industries themselves, they mix different types of plastics together. And so once that happens, of course, this is layman, but once you start mixing different plastics together, it makes it very unusable after the first time. And so recycling technically really doesn't help. It is only a feel-good scenario so that we as consumers can think we're actually making a significant dent in the global plastic issue, but we're really not doing anything. If anything, we are harming harming the environment by attempting to recycle. Because within the recycling industry, there are numerous steps that prolong the cycle of garbage that produce a whole lot of wasted energy rather than just putting it in a landfill, sadly. There are, of course, systematic ways for us to make significant change in our approaches. One is, gasification, which is essentially burning all of the garbage that we have in a contained way and turning all of this waste into things like syngas, which can produce hydrogen, it can produce biochar, different biomass that can be distributed throughout the environment in a meaningful way. But gasification is kind of like incineration, but it is contained and plasma is used as opposed to just fire. But sadly, on an individual level, I know it might feel good to just recycle, but it realistically isn't doing it really isn't doing the planet any good at all. The most impactful ways in which we as citizens can really make a change is being informed about this issue and lobby against the companies and the governments that promote us using plastic material. We should essentially this is a bit radical, but if we are able to stop using materials that use plastic, stop using produce, stop using commodities from companies that excessively use a lot of plastic, stop drinking Coca-Cola, for instance. They're the main culprits, and Pepsi. But I digress. And we should, of course, in place of the actual plastics that we use, we should, of course, look towards creating bioplastics that can be made from seaweed. But that's my answer on that one.
Okay, a very insightful answer. Thank you. Another question that we have, how does using coal in cooking factor in here? And is there something that we need to do to stop it?
Yes, so we should definitely stop using coal. The traditional coal that we're used to is essentially made from wood chips, which means that we inherently have to cut down a whole lot of trees in order to make this kind of biomass available for all. Other alternatives, of course, are using biochar. Biochar is a replacement for coal. It's I guess the more biologically friendly and more sustainable avenue towards coal replacement. Biochar can be made from coconut husk, for instance, and other types of biomass that we accumulate over time as dead weight throughout our entire environmental cycle. Seaweed is, of course, another component of biochar. And so I believe systematically, if we make these steps, we can for sure make the planet a better place so that we can stop cutting out these trees to, stop using traditional coal. But start looking at biochar companies that you can buy from instead of traditional coal companies.
Okay, thank you. We also have a question from Ms. Jennifer McKenzie. How can one become an investor?
Yes, I think right now, an investor, I'm going to categorize, I'm going to think of investor as a broad category. Within the climate change action space, the types of investors that we need are impact investors and expediting grant givers. And so the traditional equity investors can't necessarily work in our context, mainly because we don't have the environment to facilitate that. And also, there's too much research and development needed to be done at this stage to do a lot of work within the climate change action space to facilitate equity access funds. And so the type of investors that we actually need in the climate change space right now are those that are able to buy things like future carbon credits, which are guarantors or just credits that are labeled that essentially resemble one ton of carbon from the atmosphere that is pulled from the environment. And so if people, not just people from the diaspora, just generally everyone, if we're able to purchase these future carbon credits from organizations like mine, for instance, or other sanctuaries like the Alligator Head Foundation, you would essentially be able to contribute to the research and development of new technologies that we need, that we desperately need in order to continue the climate change action fight. The other category of investors that we need, just regular donors or impact investors, meaning those that are willing and able to contribute to mass budgets that a lot of these climate change action initiatives have, for a very small return or even no return, at least right now, meaning 0 to 5% expected return in terms of equity. That's mainly because we're at this dire stage where we need to have a huge inflection point and switch for us to activate a whole lot of initiatives so that we can sustain the planet. In like 10 to 20 years from now, the space would be more, I believe, more accommodative towards a more equity-based traditional funds. But right now we're at this pivotal stage where we need as much money into the space so that we can take as much action as possible. But generally though, the space is huge. The market size for the carbon removal ecosystem is about $1 trillion, or estimated to be that by the year 2050. Right now within the seaweed market, it's ranging at about $13 billion per year. In about 2025 to 2026, that's estimated to jump to about $85 million. And within each particular node that I had mentioned prior, with respect to food, fertilizer, feed, biofuels, and fiber, or alternate materials, each of them have multi-billion-dollar industries that can accommodate for expansive growth and opportunity. It's just that right now we need to do a whole lot of extensive more research to get to that inflection point where we're able to see massive returns from the actions that we're able to do throughout our actions.
Thank you. We have a question from Mr. Omar Armstrong regarding solar industry and wind energy. What OptioSare is available to the diaspora?
Ooh, that's another touchy subject for me, and it kind of is online. It kind of is online and analogous to the plastic industry. Even though so let me take things from a more optimistic approach first before I spill the bad news. So on the macro level, for sure, renewable energy technology like solar and wind, they're great for small island developing states like Jamaica and other Caribbean islands in the region, right? I believe there's huge promise for it. I believe it is the best way for our to grab energy and utilize energy from the environment for us to be sustainable in the long term, okay? And so I am a huge proponent of just generally everything solar, everything wind, everything renewable with respect to small island developing states like the Caribbean that can really take advantage of the environment based on our geographical location and the climate change adaptations that we will have to make. Now, with that said, the renewable energy industry is a bit touchy. On the macro level, for sure, this contributes to us using energy from the environment, but it also, on the flip side, contributes to us pulling, or rather releasing carbon into the atmosphere vicariously of us needing to use some of the rare earth elements that we need in order to create things like the batteries to store this energy and the different parts and utilities needed to build solar panels. So for context, batteries, for instance, are made of lithium, iron, nickel. These are extremely rare earth elements that you essentially need to do a whole lot of mining for. Mining is inherently not a renewable or a sustainable activity, and we essentially will run out. And so every time we start to mine for these elements, it means that we are contributing to the increase of carbon in the atmosphere. And it also means that we're contributing to the global rise of temperatures. With that said, do we need to continue looking at solar and wind and other renewable types of energy, mechanical renewable types of energy in order to progress? Yes. The caveat to that is that we also need to look at more sustainable ways in order to, fuel this industry in a meaningful way, so that we don't continue to destroy our mining facilities and our landmass in order to get to this goal. But we'll hit that inflection point where we'll be unable to mine anything anymore. And it is extremely hard to recycle these materials. In the grand scheme of things, batteries, you can only recycle lithium to about a 40% range. And so this means that it's inevitable that we'll run out. So that's, to answer your question.
Thank you. We have a question from the Jamaican Diaspora UK. Do you agree that private companies need to be made responsible for waste disposal of their products, and maybe then we will see change?
Yes, 100%. There's no way we as individual bodies can really make a significant dent in climate change. It's very unrealistic. What we need to do is shift the focus onto more privileged bodies and entities like companies that have the capacity and capability of making that significant change. So on an individual level, of course, I go back to lobbying with respect to governments and companies doing the right thing. So I'm all for that. We need to reduce, the companies themselves need to reduce the carbon footprint. Also, at an individual level, it is very hard for us to make a significant dent on the environment. And again, that's why I'm all for pushing the focus on companies that are destroying this space. So let's take Jamaica, for example. The hotel industry is probably, it's not the worst of the worst, but it's contributing to a significant problem that we're facing now. A lot of them don't necessarily have proper sewage treatment facilities to really streamline a lot of the junk that enters into the ocean. A lot of them are destroying natural habitats that we actually need to protect our waters. A lot of them are destroying mangroves in Jamaica to build new infrastructure, and it can't work.
Okay, thank you for that response. And we have a question from Denise Allen. What systems of accountability are most favorable to organizations such as yours for donors?
Repeat that again.
What systems of accountability are most favorable to organizations such as yours for donors?
Accountable. Let me see if I can reframe that. I'm assuming you're asking, who do we go to essentially trust that not just our donor dollars and impact dollars are used in a more equitable and sustainable way, but also who do we go to trust that the lobbying that can be done is actually done on your behalf. I would go back to, of course, a lot of the environmental related groups that are actually focused on, environmental justice, or those that are focused on more systematic change with respect to our oceans. So a lot of the sanctuaries, one of them, I keep going back to Alligator Head Foundation, mainly because that's who we work with mostly. But there are a whole lot of sanctuaries across the island that are lacking funding. And because they lack funding, they're unable to make true impact in order to change the entire landscape for Jamaica.
Okay, thank you for that response, and thank you again for your time and your insights. I'm sure you've informed and enlightened many of us on different aspects of climate and also what we can do to promote Jamaica being a greener environment. Thank you again, and thank you everyone for your questions. Right now, I would like to transition back to Kashane.
Thank you, Asha. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement with us today. You've heard from the youth on some of the thoughts that we've had and some of the issues that are at the forefront of our mind. We're appreciative that you took the time out to join us because I know it's the middle of the workday for a lot of people. We appreciate all the support, and I just want to say thank you to all the persons who presented. Nicholas, excellent presentation, and Antonio, and thank you to our moderators, Asha, Mona Lee, and Laverne for doing a great job. If there are any other questions that we can take for you, we'd be happy to do so quickly. But again, I'm taking this opportunity to say to all the young people in the diaspora, please connect with our movement. Visit our website at www.globaljayouth.com. Fill out the registration form. Everyone that presented today is a part of the movement, and we'd be happy to engage with you outside of this space. If you're looking to send us an email for your cause or any other questions, you can do so at info@globaljayouth.com or directly to any of us who put our email in the chat. Mine is kdenton@globaljayouth.com. We will pass the message along if you send it to any of those email addresses. Thank you again so much for your participation. And we hope that what we have said here today will be taken and persons will step up to support our efforts to, you can follow us on all socials. Tanisha was dropping that in the chat as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever at Global JA Youth. Please connect with us. We're happy to have you as part of our community online. Yes, so I'm hoping that whatever we've said today will not just remain in this space, but we'll have persons step up to help us as young people to create the space that we want to live in for a sustainable future for Jamaica and the diaspora. Thanks again, everyone. Yes, we are all on LinkedIn. Members of the panel, can you please drop your LinkedIn in the chat for those who are asking? People would like to connect. We will do so. And we would like to send it back to our moderator, Mr. Lloyd Wilkes, to wrap up the session for today. Thank you again, everyone.
a man from Jamdong, that is a Jamaican. Dressmaker, baker, tailor, shoemaker, market woman in a donkey cart. Rivers and streams, fountains and mountains. In a Jamaica we have it all. Now anywhere in the world I go, I am a Jamaican. No birth papers I have to show, cause I am a Jamaican. When you hear that music I play out the door, it must be Jamaican. When you smell the food I cook when the breeze blow, got to be Jamaican. Hey, beautiful smile, God-fearing people, going across the world, yet you're so simple. Yeah. And it's not your fault that you're so loving and kind. Oh, jump down, sweet Jamaica. Jamaica is island of man. No matter anywhere I go, I am a Jamaican. No ID I man need to show, cause I am a Jamaican. Oh, them people, they laugh so much, got to be Jamaican. They have overcome struggles and been through so much, got to be Jamaican. You're not all, you're not all, got to be Jamaican. Resilient and brave, industrious, yes we are Jamaican. No matter anywhere in this world I go, I am a Jamaican. No ID I man have to show, I am a Jamaican. Them say, Lord, what a boy can run, must be a Jamaican. When they make the reggae music from Jamdong, got to be Jamaican. Dressmaker, baker, tailor, shoemaker, market woman in a donkey cart. Rivers and streams, fountains and mountains. Jamaica nice nuts.
This song is a true story. As ministers, when the devil whispers sometimes, you got to tell him, no bargain. No bargain, tell that devil no bargain. No bargain with my soul, no bargain. No bargain, tell that devil no bargain. No bargain with my soul, no bargain. A woman come to my place and she want to fornicate. I said, woman, may have me wife, more than that time I want burner. You either come to mash up my home, or you come to mash up my life. She want me take a little piece and while I in a sin, me tell her no bargain. Tell that devil no bargain. Tell that devil no bargain. No bargain with my soul, no bargain. No bargain. Tell that devil no bargain. No bargain with my soul, no bargain. She said, but your wife is so far away, and I'm right here to stay. I said, woman, you're trying me fate. It's time for you to leave me, place. Why don't you give Christ your life? Let him show you the way. And if the devil send you come, go back to Satan. Tell him.
Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Ambassador Sheila Sealy-Monteith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Mr. Lloyd Wilkes, Director of the Diaspora Department, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Ms. Shauna Chin, Vice Chair of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, Mr. David Jarrett, Global Jamaica Diaspora Council Member for Africa, members of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Franz Hall, and I'm the Acting Undersecretary for the Diaspora Protocol and Consular Affairs Division in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
Recording stopped.
As the title suggests,
Recording
I'm
in
responsible
progress.
for the direction of the Diaspora Department, hence my involvement with the symposium. My purpose here is to moderate this closing session. And over the past day and a half, we've had engaging, enlightening, invigorating, exciting discussions, ideas being shared with us. So we certainly have our work cut out for us to ensure that we continue to deepen the partnership with the diaspora. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our presenters this morning. We have a message from Mr. David Jarrett, who will speak on the views from the African continent. As said earlier, he's a member of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, and he is also an expert in the field of energy. We also have Ms. Shauna Chin, who you heard from yesterday, but who is back with us again today. She's Vice Chair of the GJDC, and she's an actress and certainly involved in the creative arts. Those messages will be played right now, and I will return to introduce our Minister of State. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, honorable colleagues, ministers, distinguished diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor that I get to represent the Jamaican diaspora in Africa as a member of the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council to provide the closing remarks to this landmark Jamaica Virtual Diaspora Symposium. It is also well noted that the diaspora continues to grow from strength to strength, as is apparent not only by our presence at such an occasion, but also by the far reach of Jamaican influences globally. Point in case is the recent Africa Day celebrations hosted by Jamaica and highly represented by the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Andrew Holness, and the President of South Africa, the Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, which allowed Jamaica to be connected on two fronts. Jamaica continues to show organic growth, and with the advent of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Jamaica now has a wider access to the African continent and its 55 countries. This opportunity must now be expanded. As a result, my humble request to the government of Jamaica is for it to grasp this momentum by greater inclusion of its diaspora in guidance and formulation of policy going forward. The diaspora has proven that it is ready to provide grassroots engagement and support in furtherance of mutual development of YAD. And so I close by saying, one love, one destiny, enough respect.
Hello, you would have heard from me at the opening of the symposium. I'm actress and activist Shauna Chin, and I serve as the Vice Chair for your Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, more often referred to with the acronym GJDC. On behalf of the Council, I would like to thank the government representatives of the ruling Jamaica Labour Party and the opposition's People's National Party for your intentional support of the symposium, which further emphasizes the true commitment to diaspora engagement. We especially want to thank the Diaspora Affairs Department team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade for your diligent support of the Council and your ability to have pulled off an event of this magnitude under severe budget constraints for the benefit of the Council and for the diaspora. Special thanks to the team leaders and the members of the People Working Group, led by Dr. Karen Dunkley, and the Partnerships Working Group, led by Dr. Kevin Brown, for a stellar presentation of the work being done to actualize the goals of your groups. We could not have been successful with the presentations without the input of our esteemed panelists from Jamaica and from within the diaspora. Your commitment to Jamaica is truly commendable. I'm looking forward to a future date when the team leaders and members for the working groups Prosperity, led by Dr. Alan Cunningham, Planet, led by Mrs. Elizabeth Molling-Smith, and Peace, led by Mr. Wayne Golding Sr., are able to present to you on the work being done in their groups. Major credit and thanks to our robust Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, who under the leadership of Mrs. Tanisha Westcar and Ms. Kashane Denton have increased youth engagement to an all-time high. Jamaica's future truly does look very bright. To our sponsor partners, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica National Group, Victoria Mutual, J. Ryan Nephew Limited, and the Planning Institute of Jamaica, we are grateful for your sponsorship and support of our goals. We're a newly created group in which, for the first time, we truly have global representation of our diaspora at the table providing input. So please bear with us as we learn and solidify the expectancies of our roles as mandated by the terms of reference that guides us. Lastly, but certainly not least, we, the GJDC, want to give a huge thank you to the members of the Jamaican diaspora and the friends of Jamaica who have lent us your time in spending the last 2 days with us, learning about our goals and objectives, and in turn sharing our work with your friends, families, and colleagues. We truly are stronger together. Thank you to each and every one of you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jarrett and Ms. Chin. Well said, well delivered, and we look forward to working with you both as we drive this relationship deeper and further ahead into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, as you would have heard prior to yesterday and also yesterday, he has primary responsibility for the diaspora. So it is really my pleasure to ask Senator the Honorable Leslie Campbell to take the floor to deliver his closing remarks at this groundbreaking virtual symposium. Minister.
I want to assure the audience that I'm fully vaccinated, and hence I've removed the mask. You may see some activity taking place to my immediate left, but don't take that too seriously. Mr. Moderator, Mr. Franz Hall, who is our Undersecretary, Senator, we thank you. Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Ambassador Sheila Sealy-Monteith, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, heads of missions and staff, as well as our network of honorary consuls across the globe, Ms. Kashane Denton, Chair and members of the Global Diaspora Youth Council, as well as regional youth council leaders, Ms. Shauna Chin, Vice Chair and members of the Global Diaspora Council, representatives of the various ministries, departments, and agencies, legacy partners, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica National Group, Victoria Mutual, and J. Ryan Nephew Limited, members of staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica. Warm greetings to you all from sunny Jamaica. I'm truly delighted that you have been able to participate in today's Youth Forum hosted by the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council under the theme Sustainability and Youth, Our Future, Our Vision. I'm sure you will agree that today's forum, led by our dynamic youth leaders, is a most fitting culmination to 1.5 days of active engagement with our Jamaican family across the world. May I convey special thanks to my colleague Minister Robert Morgan for his very informative and inspiring message to the youths. Thank you for taking the time. On behalf of the government of Jamaica, I express sincere appreciation to Ms. Kashane Denton, newly appointed chairperson of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, her team, as well as all the presenters for the efficient manner in which they conducted today's youth forum. May I also use this opportunity to express our gratitude to Mrs. Tanisha Westcar, former chair of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, for her energy, drive, and remarkable stewardship of the Youth Council over the past year, and for her overall role in facilitating youth engagement over the years. As you know, the government of Jamaica is committed to building a robust, strategic, mutually beneficial relationship with its diaspora, including with the youth, particularly second, third, and fourth generation, through productive and sustainable engagement. The Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council is a representation of the government's commitment to this objective, and we are so proud of their tremendous work and achievements. Indeed, they have demonstrated that the future is in good hands. Ladies and gentlemen, an important aspect of our foreign policy and our national development goal, Vision 2030, is the enhancement of the diaspora engagement process. Consequently, as a ministry, we're of the view that despite the current global challenges, it was important to dialogue and to exchange ideas that were of mutual priority and concern. You will agree that the symposium, with all its components, provided that opportunity to interact and allowed us, despite the challenges, to maintain our connection with you, our diaspora, while strengthening the existing partnerships. Since yesterday morning, we have had robust, interesting, and enlightening, engaging, and productive discussions on issues of priority importance. We were able to share perspectives on the various issues as we continue our efforts to navigate the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. The 3 plenary sessions on education, health and wellness, and diaspora partnerships were all diaspora-led and involved presenters, facilitators, and panelists who are all experts in their respective fields. At the same time, we were able to provide useful updates and engage in fruitful discussions at the highest level on national development issues. We are grateful to Prime Minister Holness for his demonstrated leadership in facilitating the town hall, and to his team at OPM who collaborated with our ministry's team in this effort. The discussions since yesterday have laid the foundation for further dialogue, including at next year's 9th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the successful staging of the symposium and related activities would not have been possible without the collective efforts of our local and overseas stakeholders. I convey appreciation to the staff of King's House for the virtual staging of the Governor General's Awards for the Diaspora, which was this year given in recognition of heroes of the pandemic. I extend heartiest congratulations to all the recipients and thank them for their committed service during this challenging time. We're most grateful to our own Foreign Minister, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, for her leadership and support in this endeavor, as well as to the various government ministers who participated in the program. Special thanks to Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, Minister of Health, Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, as well as Honorable Robert Morgan, Minister of State in that ministry, who joined us this morning. I also thank Ms. Lisa Hanna, Opposition Spokesperson on Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, for bringing remarks during the opening session. Dr. Wayne Henry, Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, did an excellent job in setting the context for the various plenary sessions, which were capably led by the Global Jamaica Diaspora team leads, Dr. Karen Dunkley, Dr. Christopher Parker, and Dr. Kevin Brown, as well as all the presenters and panelists who contributed to the very rich and vibrant discussions. The Ministry is most grateful for the strong partnership and collaboration with the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council in the staging of the symposium. Since my appointment as Minister of State with responsibility for diaspora affairs, I have been privileged to interact with some brilliant minds in our diaspora who, though geographically distant from home, are connected by the heart. I look forward to the continued collaboration as we seek to fulfill the agreed work programs of the Council and strive towards other mutual beneficial outcomes. May I also convey gratitude to the various MDAs, including the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, JAMPRO, Jamaica Tourist Board, Jamaica Information Service, and other media partners. A special thanks to our legacy partners, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica National Group, Victoria Mutual, and J. Ray and Nephew Limited for their long-standing support of the Biennial Diaspora Conference, as well as their overall support to the government as we seek to strengthen our relations with the diaspora. Special commendations to Ambassador Sheila Seeley Monteith, Permanent Secretary, and members of the team at headquarters who worked assiduously, undaunted by the various challenges, to bring the program together. We also acknowledge our technical services provider, Appfinity, who did a great job in working with the ministry's team, the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, and the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council in this effort. As we bring this engagement to a close, I thank all of you who have joined us in this virtual space to deliberate on important issues, as we would say in Jamaica, to hold a positive vibe. I invite you to join us at next year's staging of the 9th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference, to be convened under the chairmanship of Senator Don Webby, Group Chief Executive Officer, Grace Kennedy Limited. May God richly bless you, your families, our blessed Highland home of Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Campbell. Thank you for your kind words on behalf of the team of the ministry, and of course, certainly our partners who had worked with us in ensuring the success of the symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the diaspora, we commit to working with you on areas of mutual interest. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thank you for being with us over this period of a day and a half. And we certainly wish you all the best and continue to stay safe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
For 142 years, Victoria Mutual has followed the footprints of our founding fathers with an unrelenting focus on improving financial inclusion. We are committed to transforming the lives of our members, clients, and team members in Jamaica and the diaspora. This is the heart of our mutuality. Even as COVID-19 caused tremendous upheaval throughout the year, the VM team redoubled already strident efforts to support our members, clients, and team members. We improved our delivery of financial products and services, as well as provided financial education to support Jamaicans in making wise financial decisions throughout this difficult time. For members having difficulties with repaying their loans and mortgages, we provided a range of options that would best suit their needs or circumstances. We provided moratoria for approximately 900 members and approved late fee waivers amounting to more than $10 million. We provided same-day access to a cash-secured loan with a 50% discount on processing fees. We increased the daily online and ABM limits to provide easier access to cash. We upgraded our VM Express online banking and launched our mobile app. Members can enjoy the freedom of banking at their convenience without leaving the comfort of their home or office. And if a visit to any of our locations was necessary, we ensured that all COVID-19 protocols and guidelines were followed. We launched our upgraded online mortgage portal. Potential homeowners can apply for mortgage pre-approval online. Getting funds from friends and family overseas was also made easier with VM Money Transfer's direct bank services. We also reduced the fees for our VM wealth management services and increased publication of our investor updates to help our clients navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. VM Wealth introduced a client portal that allows clients the convenience and added safety of banking remotely. We were there. We are here, always. Beyond our provision of financial products and services, we sought to improve the quality of life for our fellow Jamaicans through our initiatives focused on nation building and leadership, youth empowerment, and health and family life. Through the Victoria Mutual Foundation, we were able to provide support to over 200,000 Jamaicans, valued at over $46 million in support of the nation's COVID-19 relief efforts, as well as other VM Group outreach projects. Our support of our youth continued through our Head Start Scholarship Awards. We provided scholarships to secondary and tertiary students, valued at $4.3 million last year. The foundation invested $6.4 million towards the Child Resiliency Program, which targets youth between the ages of 9 to 11 impacted by crime and violence. The foundation also donated 120 smartphones, laptops, and tablet computers to students across the island. We continued our partnership with the British Council to implement and execute the Social Enterprise in Secondary Schools program to a tune of some $6 million last year, supporting the development of social enterprise programs and providing financial education to secondary students. The program aims to increase students' knowledge of social innovation and entrepreneurship. We are committed to contributing to national leadership initiatives that promote and foster community and individual leadership development. We engage leaders from the government, civic and private sectors to build the nation through the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. We continued our partnership with the Ministry of Health in the Adopt a Clinic program by providing support to the St. Jago Health Center. We provided funding in the amount of $1 million, which helped to purchase clinical and facility equipment, benefiting the over 50,000 patients who use the facility. The VM Foundation also coordinated various efforts initiated by team members to provide support to Jamaicans in need. We not only celebrate our strong financial performance in 2020, but we also celebrate the strength of our mutuality. We celebrate our commitment to your financial well-being. We are providing our members and clients with benefits valued at $335 million through discounted fees and low rates on mortgage and loans. This year, in the spirit of a true mutual, we have reinvested our capital in our nation and our people. We are working together with Jamaica, always.
The year 2020 brought a brand new challenge to the JN Group when a global pandemic arrived on our shores. But with every obstacle we have faced since 1874, we have worked as a team to adapt and create solutions for members locally and overseas. Several key initiatives were undertaken during the pandemic. demonstrating JN's resolve to always help members find a way. The year 2020 saw the successful launch of JN Bank UK, making history as the first Caribbean-owned bank launched in the United Kingdom. Remote CSR was a timely initiative, allowing members in the diaspora to request and access banking services remotely. Online appointment systems were also a welcome response to the pandemic. Customers overseas were able to schedule appointments to send money at a JN Money in Cayman and the UK and seek investment advice through our JN Fund Managers network. Our Q-Ride customer management system replaced standing in line with comfortable seating while members waited to be served. With the arrival of the pandemic, JN Bank was able to respond with enhancements to JN Live to better serve our members with real-time transactions at smart ATMs across the island. As we continue to go through this global health challenge, we reassure members that our commitment to helping them find a way remains strong and resilient. We thank you, our members, for your support and truly believe that come what may, we will continue to